What's going on, fam? It is CJ, and we are here tonight to talk about our favorite show, Love and Marriage, Huntsville. I had to take a drink of water because we have a lot to discuss tonight. And tonight we'll be talking about season 2, episode 14, Sanctioned. But before we talk about it, y'all know, please make sure that you thumbs up this video and also subscribe to the channel while you're here. Tonight's episode was serving us a lot. Tonight's episode served us some cancellations, some sanctions, some counter sanctions. It just served us in confrontations. It just served a lot. So we'll go ahead and get started. Now, the episode started where it left off last week with Martell and Miss Wanda kind of battling each other in the parking lot. And they were kind of going off on one another regarding Mel and the kids. Martell says that it was because Miss Wanda was online talking crazy about the kids. And it really had everything to do with her telling Mel that there are better men out there for her. He heard that and that just set him off. But he said it was because of the kids. I did see the live, and I might have mentioned it last week, but I saw the live that he was talking about, and she said that and I think I discussed this in my last video. She said that she didn't want them going to that bowling party because, you know, Mel and Martell were some haters, and for all she knows, you know, their kids will grow up to hate on Tisha and Marceau's kids. They might hate because they got longer hair or something. She was just being Miss Wanda, and that was what he used as an excuse to go off on her for talking about his kids. But anyway, you know, Miss Wanda, she was still trying to talk to Mel. She was determined to talk to Mel. Tisha's in the parking lot yelling at her, telling her that you're not her mom. You need to come back. And she was determined to find her. So she finds her and she approaches her car and she's like, well, Mel, did you hear what they're saying online? And Mel was like, no, I haven't heard anything. You know, she just wants to get out of there. She's not trying to entertain anything. But Miss Wanda, what she heard is the baby rumor that we all have heard now, and that Martell had made, you know, with his mistress, Ariane, I think that's her name. But she wants to know, did Melody hear about what's going on and, you know, how her heart goes out to her and all this stuff. But Mel's ready to go. And Destiny was inside and she calmed, you know, Martell down, and she's like, okay, are you calm? You know, can I leave you to go talk to Mel? And he's like, yeah, you know, you can. And so she leaves him. But Tisha grabs her mom and she's like, Mom, you know, you need to come on. We don't need to be a part of that. You need to, you know, get out of that, because for one, Mel's not innocent in this thing. And for two, we don't even know if the rumors are true. You know, it's just stuff that people are saying on social media. You have no proof that it's true or not. So we need to get out of it. You need to come on. So she gets her mom out of there, and Destiny goes to check on Mel. And, you know, Mel just says, you know, she ain't got time for none of the foolishness. So she just exited stage left. And Destiny's like, man, I wish I had my keys because I would leave too. And she was like, girl, you can leave. Come on, let's go. She was like, we can come back for your car later. So they left. She left with Mel. And so at this time, you know, the party is pretty much ruined. And they come back and sit down. You know, Martell is back at the table. Miss Wanda comes back, and now she's grilling him, asking him if the rumors are true. And so he's not answering, or, you know, he says something like, well, when two people, you know, have sex, you know, what do you think happens, or stuff happens? He said something like that. Drop down in the comments if y'all remember what he said, because I don't know, but it was something to that effect. And so Kimmy just says that, this day was not about anything but Jalen. It wasn't supposed to be about this argument between Miss Wanda and Martell. It wasn't supposed to be no mess with, Melody and Martell or Miss Wanda. It was strictly about her son. Miss Wanda tells her, well, you can't stop me from talking, so, basically y'all were going to get whatever I gave at this event that she wasn't invited to, might we add. So, Kimmy just says to Tisha, Miss Wanda wasn't invited for a reason. And this was probably that exact reason. And Miss Wanda, she is not backing down. She just wants to know. She's asking Martell about the baby. And she don't care if they had a graduation party or not. Basically, she just wants the tea. So it looks like this might have been the next day or a few days later. But Marceau wants to meet with Kimmy because he wants to kind of find out where her head is after all the madness that happened. And she, just feels like Miss Wanda goes unchecked. Her actions go unchecked every time. And this just causes her to continue to do whatever she wants, wherever she wants, whenever she wants to do it, to whoever she wants to do it to. But now, Marceau, he says that either, she's going to have to beat Miss Wanda's ass or basically accept it. He said it jokingly, but you shouldn't joke about anybody beating up your mama-in-law, no matter how much y'all dislike one another or whatever. That wasn't just funny to me. But anyway, Kimmy, she feels like Tisha should be the one to tell her mom that, okay, we gonna kind of pick and choose what events we invite you to. And she feels like, because, she can't have Miss Wanda tearing the club up every time she comes somewhere, because it does seem like every event that Miss Wanda comes to, Miss Wanda is gonna say something, and it just turns the whole vibe. It just turns it in a different direction. Excuse me, y'all. And then she just said, yeah, we're gonna sanction her from certain events. And Marceau, he says that Tisha really does need to get her mom in check, or she needs to be prepared to constantly have to apologize for her mom. That's just what it's gonna be, because every time Miss Wanda turns up, Tisha is always having to go back and either make excuses for her mom, or she has to apologize for her mom. It's almost kind of like Miss Candy's mom, how Mama Joyce does her. That's kind of the same way that Miss Wanda does Tisha. It's kind of the same. But anyway, he says that he's going to talk to Tisha about this because his words, I guess they hold weight, they matter. Let him tell it. So we then see Destiny. Destiny's organizing another voting event, and she decides, to do it in the form of like a social distanced costume party. And that's a pretty cute idea. It'll get parents out, it'll get the kids out, and she could use that opportunity to kind of drive people to the polls, to drive them to want to vote. And I'm assuming that it was the 2020 election, the presidential election. But Martell just kind of rolls up out of nowhere while she's talking to the event planner. And, she tells him, you need to come, you need to bring the kids. It's going to be a good time. And so he surprised Destiny because he apologized for his actions, for his behavior at the party, because she was the one having to haul his big ass away because he was really blowing up on this old woman. So she was like, yeah, because you were kind of out of line, and here I am trying to get you out of there, and we can't be doing all that, Martell. So he feels like, well, yeah, that shouldn't have happened. But at the same time, I feel like Mel should have checked Miss Wanda for what she was saying. Why would she check her for what she was saying? Mel is just as mad as you as the rest of the world is at this point. So she's not gonna say, especially if the woman is on her side, what she look like saying something to a man that she not even talking to, you know, that she wants nothing to do with at this point. But he feels like she should have said something to Miss Wanda, and Destiny's like, look, we not here to talk about Mel. You know, Mel's not here. So this conversation is really about you. And so he feels like that he's like, oh, you taking her side now. So he's still on this campaign of winning their friends all to be on his side. And right now, it doesn't seem like anybody is willing to do that except for Marceau, but we'll see. Now, he just says that he says something very, very, very off-putting to Destiny. He tells her that she needs to make sure that she learns her role as a woman or something. And she's like, well, what is my role as a woman? Because basically he implied that Mel forgot her role as a woman, which caused him to step out. He was talking about she was cheating. She cheated first and whatnot. He is still driving this narrative that Mel cheated, which from what I'm seeing, like in them social media streets, she might have had some dealings with men other than Martell while they were married. But of course, this was in turn from him doing what he was doing. But I guess all of this stuff will come to light eventually. But he couldn't explain to her what her role as a woman was. He was like, well, you and LeBaric have only been married for less than a year. You'll find out. And it was just really out of place. But he ended up leaving. Destiny wasn't trying to hear none of that. She was making him take accountability, and he didn't want to, so he just chose to leave. So then we have Marceau and Tisha. They're at home, and she's kind of wanting to know where they are as far as Scott Manor is concerned, because she is sick and tired of being in this tiny kind of transition house. She says there's no room, and she is just over it. Now, she also says that she was thinking that they could turn one of the areas in the new house into like a mother-in-law suite. That way, when Miss Wanda comes into town, that when she needs her, you know, she can just come straight to the house. She can stay at the house. She doesn't have to make other arrangements because she'll have her own kind of living quarters in their house. He's like, nah, we can build Miss Wanda a cottage somewhere on the 10 acres, but she doesn't need to be under the roof with us. But Tisha says otherwise. And I think that Tisha is so attached to her mom because her mom is like her biggest rider. Her mom rides for her. Her mom rides for her more than her husband, more than her friends and family. Miss Wanda is always gonna ride for her baby, and she knows that, so she longs to be near that, and it bothers the hell out of everybody else, but that's their dynamic, that's their relationship, and I don't really know if they'll ever be able to do anything about it. But anyway, they then start talking about how Miss Wanda cut up at the party, and she feels, that Kimmy basically, if Kimmy had a problem with it, Kimmy could have called her to discuss it. What good would that have done, honestly speaking? Because we know that Tisha, she will always make an excuse for why her mom has done something. And it will always go back to, well, you don't have my back, she does. And I don't know. Excuse me, y'all. How's my throat? But anyway, so where was I? So Tisha, accuses Marceau and Kimmy of never being on her side, and that they always say that she's wrong in situations. And true enough, they do say that. But when you look at the situation, Tisha's way of thinking is very unconventional. It's not really the way that most people think about stuff. And it all boils down to her wanting somebody to agree with her, her wanting somebody to be on her side. And nobody does that. And a lot of times they don't have reason to do it. But anyway, so Marcel tells her, Kimmy has sanctioned Miss Wanda from certain events. She has said that Miss Wanda just can't come to certain stuff. And so instead of Tisha being mature about it and understanding, she automatically gets defensive and just says, okay, well, I'm going to sanction Kimmy from certain events. She can't come to any of my events either, so she was just like, okay, well, if she want to cancel my mama, I'm going to cancel her. And Tisha, she's hurt because she feels like, Kimmy could come and talk to Marceau about it, but couldn't come to her about it. Well, that's true, but Marceau called Kimmy to talk. She didn't call him up. He wanted to meet with her to find out where her head was about it. So technically, she didn't reach out to anybody about it. And she just feels like, family shouldn't do family like that. Sisters should not do sisters the way that she's trying to do her. And she doesn't think that they should do one another like that. So Marceau's basically telling her, you can't cancel Kimmy right now because you're angry. Don't make a decision out of anger because you gave Mel, chance after chance after chance. And that's just your friend. This is family. This is your sister. Talking about Kimmy. You need to rethink this and you need to kind of approach this a little differently. And so Tisha just says that she'll wait until the podcast to talk about this. And he's like, you're not going to talk about this on your podcast, are you? She's like, no, I'm not going to talk about it on my podcast. I'm more professional than that. We can talk about it afterwards or whatever. So that's what she said. But what she did was something completely different. So moving on, we see Mel and Marcus. They're at the house. They're at, I think they're at Mel's house, and he was helping her with some flooring. He was helping her with some renovations, and she tells him about Destiny's event, and she wants him to come. She wants him to come really because she kind of wants like some muscle there in case Martell gets to showing his ass, and she wants to make sure that, she's protected. And she tells him some stuff that Martell told the kids. Martell told the kids, I guess out of spite, that Uncle Marcus likes boys. He likes, men. In other words, that he's gay. And he told them that, in malice. He told them that, I guess, to kind of taint Uncle Marcus's character. And Melody was really pissed off about it because she feels like Marcus has been nothing but good to her during this whole ordeal. Him and his husband, Troy, they have taken her in. They've taken care of her and her children. When she didn't have a place to go, they've been there for them during this entire separation/divorce. And she was not having it at all. So she called Martell and went off on him about it because, like she said, you're not going to talk crazy about my brother. So Marcus just basically says that he'll talk to Martell at the voting event, at Destiny's voting event. So it's the day of the podcast, and Destiny gets there first. And, they talk about the tornado that ensued at the party, i.e. Wanda. And, they were kind of wondering if Kimmy was going to show up, because she was late already, and they didn't know that, whether or not she was going to show up from everything that had went down. But Kimmy shows up and they get started. Now, they begin the podcast and they talk about mothering during the pandemic. Destiny talked about going into labor 3 weeks early with her son and what her experience was like in the hospital, where people were quarantined and it was, the pandemic, and how the situation was very scary. And Kimmy talked about, being a nurse in these times, and also having a child graduate from college and not being able to really do it like, we would normally do it if this was not a pandemic, if people weren't required to social distance, if we could turn up the way we normally turn up for these type of functions. He didn't get to walk across the stage. She kind of talked about the disappointments and that. But then since they brought the party up, they started talking about it. Now, I was wondering if this was going on during the podcast, but I guess the mics were still up. They were still talking about it. And, anyway, so Tisha brings up how her husband told her that Kimmy wants to sanction her mom from future events. And Kimmy was just like, well, it's funny you should say that, because I do feel like Miss Wanda should not be invited to every event. And I say that because there are going to be events that we have that people will be there that Miss Wanda don't like. And I'm not trying to have all this ruckus, all this commotion. I just want to be able to have a good time, or be able to take care of, the task at hand without Miss Wanda turning up. And Tisha feels like, if you have a problem with my mom, you should come to me instead of coming to somebody else. And we remember after the other voting event that Kimmy had, she had a conversation with Miss Wanda. Miss Wanda accused her and Mel of whispering about Tisha, and that was not what they were talking about at all. But they had their words, and Tisha was under the understanding that they had, squashed it, and they had come to an understanding, and all was well. But Kimmy told her, look, I'm perfectly capable of handling Miss Wanda. I don't need to come to you when I have a problem with Miss Wanda. I can just go directly to Miss Wanda, because Tisha was saying she feels like she's in the middle of stuff. You're not in the middle of anything, because I'm going to go straight to the source. I'm not going to come to you. And Tisha just has a problem with that. Now, they are talking about this on the mic. And Destiny feels like she's in the middle, but Destiny brought it up. Destiny started talking about it. So I don't know why she's feeling all, oh my goodness now, because you got the party started. So why are you talking about, I wish me and my wig could just go. Hey, you and your wig could have just shut up and they wouldn't have got on the subject. Not at least with you in the room. But anyway, they kind of, Tisha just doesn't want to accept the fact that, Kimmy is not bothered by it. Kimmy's not wanting to argue about it. Kimmy has moved on from it, but Tisha has not. So Tisha wants to kind of argue about it some more. And she's upset that Kimmy is like, okay, this is not an issue. It's not anything for us to argue about, because, your mom she not going to be at every event. And that's just that on that. So we get to the day of the voting event. And, all the crew is showing up. Everybody's showing up with the kids, dressed up. Everybody looks really nice. And except for Marceau. Marceau was so lazy. Marceau just wore his work uniform, the construction uniform. He wore the vest. He wore the hard hat. He ain't spent no money on a costume. But that's my kind of person, because I'm cheap too. But anyway, Destiny, he roasted Destiny because she had on like a patent leather like cat suit, and she had her whip and everything, but she had like the Bat woman like mask. It didn't really look like a cat to me, but he was like, hey, Batgirl or something, and she was like, I'm not a bat. She was like, I'm Catwoman. Haven't you seen, Catwoman, Halle Berry with the short hair? He was like, but you got bat ears on. And so she was like, no, these are not bat ears. They're cat ears. So he was just calling her like a mixture of like bat, Catwoman. It was funny. I got a little kiki out of that. But we see Sidarik, him and his wife, they're dressed like a barista. And I don't know what she supposed to be, like some whipped cream or something. She was dressed in all white and she had all kinds of fluff on her, but I don't know. But they were there, and Siddharth brings up a camping trip. He wants them to go camping, and Marceau thinks this will be a good idea because it'll give him and Martell an opportunity to, hash out their differences potentially. And they see Marcus coming over the horizon. Marcus and Martell are dressed alike. Martell went and got the Walmart Pharaoh outfit, and Marcus comes dressed as, it looks like he spent a little more money on his Pharaoh costume. And nonetheless, all the guys got a big kick out of the two of them dressing alike. It was kind of funny to see, but Marcus, he wanted to pull Martell to the side because he wanted to, talk to him about what was going on with him and Melody. And they start talking, and he tells Martell, that, one time when the kids were getting ready to leave, they stopped, and told Troy, could you be our daddy? We wish you could be our daddy, or something like that. And I guess that was the trigger for Martell. Martell started cussing, telling him he'd be his mother effing A right here if he say that shit again. It was just crazy. I mean, he like flipped a switch, and just like when Melody got mad when he told her he was going for full custody, it was like the same thing. Like, he just went off. He started like talking crazy to Marcus, and Marcus the whole time is sitting there like, okay, he doing all this talking, but are you gonna beat my ass? And he was like, if we were any place other than this, I'll beat your ass, and da 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 da. He's like talking crazy to him. And so they exchanged words going back and forth, and Martell walked off. And so Marcus was like, yeah, you ain't gonna do nothing but what you're doing now, walking off. So he walked off, and that was kind of the end. Like, Melody didn't show up. I don't know if she will show up. We may find out next week if she comes or not, but she hadn't shown up to that point, which is kind of crazy if you ask him to come from, Atlanta to come to this event and then you're not here. I don't know. But that was where the episode ended. Next week does look like it's going to be a good episode. If I left anything out, I talked about a lot of stuff. But if there's anything that I left out that y'all want to talk about, you always know to drop down in the comments below and we can talk about it. We always do. And don't forget to like the video again. And I will see you all in the next one. Y'all stay safe and have a good one. Peace.